been a while since I've done any kind of knife making and forging videos, so I thought I'd bring you in on what I'm doing here. A friend of mine, Oz Hughes, Oz Bonsai Knives actually, if you want to look him up, is he's asked me to make him a billet for the upcoming knife show in October in the UK. He asked me months and months ago to make this billet for him and I've left it too late, so he's going to be on the clock now to get this knife finished. He asked me to make him a Damascus billet for a beautiful Bowie knife that he wants to build to specifically to take to the show for a bit of a show piece, an exhibition piece. And I was kind of racking my brains on what I could do, and it just automatically reverted to a multi-bar billet because I really love those types of Damascus, you know, where you've got different multiple layers of Damascus all welded together to form one piece of Damascus. I really like them. I did a Bowie a couple of years ago like that and I love the way it came out. I don't want to repeat that pattern, I want to do something different, so with that in mind, probably about a month ago now I started forging this billet for Oz. In my idea I had two twisted bars in the centre of the blade, like twisting together, so opposite twists forged together, a piece of dark carbon on the back on the spine, a piece of, you know, just black carbon steel on the top, and then an explosion Damascus pattern for the cutting edge or the bottom half of the knife. And that's where I am with this billet here. That is a piece of explosion pattern Damascus, and I've got a big problem because to get the final pattern out of this knife I've had to forge weld the pieces together like that. And so they were all stacked up there and forge welded together, and then they have to be pulled out. Now this, I've already tried twice to forge this out and it keeps breaking up. So my last attempt was about 2 weeks ago. It's just been sat in the forge since then, just waiting on me to pull it out again. Ideally, this would have been better cut into tiles on an angle so that there was more bearing face, if you like, to forge it back down together and to draw it out. I just couldn't do that with this pattern because the pattern wouldn't have come out right. Now in my 2 attempts I've had to forge this out, I may have already kind of killed the pattern on this. So my plan today is to forge it back down just to try and squash it together and leave it soaking for about 10 minutes and then have another go at pulling it out. If it does break up, which I'm 90% probably sure that it's going to break up again, I will just forge that, I will just push it back together and leave it at that, and then that will be used for something else. And the standby plan is this billet here, which is I think 6 layers, is it? What did he be? Yeah, 6 layers there. So my alternative is to forge out these 6 layers of 1095 and 15N20 into a fairly low layer shark tooth pattern to run along the bottom of the knife, which is going to look cool anyway. And on the final pass on this I'll put a core steel in the centre and the shark pattern on each side of it. So let's get this forge lit up and let's try and get this billet pulled out. I've put 2 lines there on the end of the billet, as you can see. There's a couple of lines going across. That is the way the billet has got to be forged out, that way. So it's going to be pulled out that way because the pattern is only on this face, that one. So there's very little pattern on the side of this. Lighting the forge will serve 2 purposes today. It will hopefully get this billet to about that length without breaking up. It will also get the start on that billet, but it will hopefully drive the blood-sucking evil mosquitoes out of this room, of which there is thousands, as my neck, my arms and legs can attest to, because these damn things, whichever portion of hell they've come from, love biting you through your clothes and everywhere. So I'm currently covered in anti-mosquito repellent stuff and I can just see them buzzing all around me, guys. Anyway, let's get the forge lit and drive them outside. I've got the crumbling billet in the forge, and I'm going to let that get up to a good temperature and even let it soak in the heat for maybe 5 minutes. When that starts getting up to temperature, I'm going to put this billet in and I'm just going to start working on it, really just forging that together and drawing it out into a longer bar. and I'll maybe do it into a stack of 4 and draw it out again, then a stack of 2, forge in the wolf tooth pattern and then draw it out to the size I need for the end of the billet. But I'm going to kind of work on the 2 at the same time. I'm going to work on this one with the hammer for a little while, for maybe 3 or 4 heats, hopefully to keep the billet intact. Before that I'm going to put it in the press and push it back down to try and consolidate those original welds again. Then I'm going to work on it with the hammer on the anvil, just to try and slowly spread it a little bit. All that time I'm heating and working it, those welds should consolidate and hopefully stay together better than it would be than just going in the press, putting 20 ton of force on, which is more likely to get them to open up again. Anyway, I can only do that, I can only do what I can do. Try it out, see what happens. I'll bring you back when it starts squishing. So I just forged that one out to there. That single 6 stack. And just let that cool now. Probably cut it into 4 or 5. Restack it, which will give us 12, 24. Yeah, maybe 50 layers. Get around 50 layers if I can. That'll do. Let that cool down. This other billet, I've done it. I've worked it on the anvil 3 or 4 heats. I just put it under the press and gave it a very light squashing, and it seems so far to be holding together. But all I've kind of done really is get it back to the length it was when I started. So these next presses now are going to see if I can draw that billet out and just see if it stays together. If it doesn't, then we'll just have to work on the other billet and forget this one. Still together, but these corners are just opening up a little bit. So it's not opened up on the face, but these corners are just starting to open up. I'm going to have to keep working the billet really hot, but on the next heat I'm going to knock these corners in to maybe try and alleviate that cracking a little bit. It is hot. They only actually need about 50 mil more on the billet. But like I say, I don't even know if this explosion pattern is going to come out right now because of the way I've had to work on the billet to try and consolidate it again. I might have messed the pattern up, I don't know. We'll see. Pull this out to the 8 inches of steel that I need, just slightly under 8 inches. It would appear to be holding up. There are a few surface cracks on the edges and like things like that on corners which have just opened up, but they haven't spread. I'm already expecting failure on this really, so if I do crack it up, forging it out further, I won't be too bothered. It's just that one there that's got me worried. I'm just going to put that on the grinder and have a look. I don't think you'll be able to see it, but there's a little crack just there. I'm going to grind that and see how deep it goes. Right, so that crack I was seeing was just on, it was a crack in the fire scale on the surface, which was here somewhere. The bar down the centre is solid, and like I said, we've just got these little cracks on the edges which don't travel through. Around the other side the same, the other side is really clean. Well, you know, I think this billet is actually at a stage now where it's fully welded, even those shuts are welded up, and it's a homogeneous piece of steel. So I am going to weld a bar on the end, and I'm going to continue to forge this down. It's a little bit thick, you see, a little bit thick, and that extra width will allow me to cut these edges off here. So I can just grind them off, cut them off, get rid of them, and we're good to go. This is one of my twists, so you can see the discrepancy. That's where it will be welded onto there, and you can see the discrepancy in the thickness. So ideally I want that billet to be around, somewhere around this thickness of this one. Yeah, it's a lot of steel to grind away that. Let's try and get it down a bit. This is the part where you mess it up. Well, let's see. Righty ho. I've pulled it out to there. It's just as I figured. It has stayed together, thankfully. It's now about 4 inches longer than it was. It's almost the thickness I want, so pretty much on par with what I want there. So these billets will be stacked up on top of each other, but I've left plenty of meat on this so I can grind this surface off. I want to have a look at the pattern really, because like I said, with, you know, it's been like a salvage job on this billet, trying to put it back together, trying to keep it in place while I was forging out. And if that pattern has been heavily distorted from what I wanted, then this particular billet will be no good for this knife. So I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to etch it and have a look, and then I can work out if I'm going to use this or carry on forging the shark tooth pattern in the other billet. Okay, after messing around a little bit last night, some cleaning up, and with that explosion pattern, the 2 twists and the piece of carbon steel, which is an old file. Now, confidence level is not high at all on this, because as I suspected, the explosion pattern has been quite badly distorted. Personally, don't think the twists, there's not enough twists in the twisted bars, and I think the only thing that will possibly come out right is the piece of carbon on the back. That's it guys, the 4-bar stack welded down. It's all welded together okay. I am going to just grind all this surface scale off when it cools down, and I can just make sure it's intact, but I'm 100% certain it is. Well, the welding looks clean. I'm quite surprised really. I did a test etch on one side and the pattern looks actually quite good. So I've cut the V out of the end there, and I'm going to weld that back together now. And that will form the tip of the knife. That's the cutting edge there, it's the spine. So I bring them together, it brings the pattern together at the front. So I'm just going to weld that together and then draw the billet out. I'll just show you the template which has just arrived for the Bowie. There is the Bowie template. As you can see, plenty of steel, need a bit pulling out for the width, but Oz doesn't want the billet or the blade that long, he wants it about there, he said. So there's more than enough steel, and that is, I think it's 12.5mm thick at the moment, and it needs to come down, final finish 6 or 7mm. So just taking it down that 2 or 3 mil will put an extra 3 inches on that. The tang is really thick and wants pulling down, but I expect I'm going to have to, when I forge the shape in the front, that'll further stretch out the billet. So I'm probably going to have to restart the tang area about there somewhere, and then just cut off the excess that's left on the tang. Just got this hot enough, just hot enough so I can move the steel. So I'll clean that out after this heat and then push it together, but I'll get it hotter this time. Well, I'm just manipulating it on the anvil now with the hammer to sort of forge the shape in. You know, just pulling it around, spreading it, trying to keep the pattern intact so then the top and bottom billet more or less stay the same width all the way along. It's very difficult because in order to do that, I started fullering out the blade on its width, and at the handle end where it's a little bit cooler, it opened up one of the welds. My God. So I had to kind of forge where I had almost the width I wanted. I had to forge it back down to close that weld up again. I'm hoping it's welded, so I'm going to do the rest of the work with the hammer now. Just pulling it out. I'm not too bothered about the different billets being different widths. It's a fact of life now that the edge steel is going to have to be pulled out wider to fit the pattern, because I'm not putting it under the fullering die and trying to push it out widthways again. I'm not doing that. So I'll bring you back when I get a bit nearer to the template. So good job I checked the footage. The last two clips I did, which were just forging out the profile of the blade in the Damascus, they're just missing. So I think I've done the old press record when the camera's already recording, which has turned it off. So I've done a couple of those, and I've just missed the end of forging really. But it was a bit traumatic, but I did manage to get the billet drawn out, and it's solid, which is absolutely unbelievable because the state of it and the fact that it kept opening up. When I followed the width out, two of them opened out, the welds just sheared open a little bit, but pushed it back together. I'll bring you in for a close. You can just see the pattern. There we go. Can you just see it? A little bit of decarb there on the edge, but the bevels will be ground away from there, so that'll be ground away. You can just see the two twisted bars in the centre, the carbon steel on the spine, and that kind of explosion Damascus pattern on the edge, which did, as I suspected, get a bit distorted, but I do love the way it kind of came out. It should have come out a little bit better than that, but anyway, I'm happy with the result of that billet, and the fact, just the pure fact that I actually got the billet out of this, you know, a billet of steel. So there you go, lessons learned. As long as you remember those lessons, they're valuable lessons. And I'm going to make another one of these and correct the explosion pattern on the bottom so it will be more vibrant. Anyway, I'm sending this off to Oz. As I say, it's a good job I just checked the footage before I sent this to Oz, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to show you this. But I will put some more information about this blade in the next couple of weeks as Oz gets the blade finished. Hopefully he'll send me some pictures of it and you can see it, and I'm sure he'll be taking a video of it when he gets it to the knife show. Right guys, thanks for watching. Thank you to my patrons, and see you all quite soon. Bye for now.